So, you're looking to build a Greasefang Okiba boss commander deck and you need a little help getting started? Well, my name is Capital G, and that's what I'm here to do. I'd like to welcome you to the first 10. And when I say welcome to the first 10, I literally mean it. Welcome to the first episode of the first 10, where we take a commander, we highlight the first 10 cards you should consider for your deck. And I don't pick, say, Soul Ring or Arcane Signet or any of the classic mana rocks. Now, the cards I pick are to help you focus your strategy and focus on your advantages and make up for any weaknesses that the commander may inherently have. So I hope this first episode demonstrates that and demonstrates a fun way to build Greasefang Okiba boss. So let us talk about our Biker Mouse from Mars. Black, white, and 1 for this 4/3 rat pilot. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, return target vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So yes, we want to put vehicle cards into our graveyard, then bring them back and swing. And yes, those vehicles could end up back in our hand unless we do something else with them. But it doesn't change the primary goal of the deck, which is to bring everyone's life totals from 40 to 0. So let us see how this will work out. Obviously, being a vehicles deck, we want to run at least 15 vehicles. One of them should be the Beryllian 2, which is, at the time of recording, the best beater out there amongst vehicles. Yes, it's 8 mana, which is very expensive, but hey, our commander can get around that. It has flying, first strike, and vigilance, and when it attacks, we get 2 angel tokens with flying and vigilance that are attacking. It also has a crew cost of 4, and a reminder on how crew works. If you can tap any number of creatures with a total power of 4 or more in this instance, such as our commander all on its own, to turn this from a non-creature artifact into an artifact creature. The advantage of vehicles, of course, is that it dodges most board wipes, so anything that says destroy all creatures, well, most of the time a vehicle is not a creature, so it gets around that. But we do have some other things to be careful for. But yes, we want to run lots of vehicles, look throughout the curve, look for ones that can provide you card advantage, look for ones with trample, look for ones that hit hard, and also look to the new sets as we go by, as we're going to be expecting a bunch more vehicles as we go through this year. But what are we going to do with those vehicles? Because, I mean, it's going to come back to our hand. What's the point of, just swinging the Beryllian 2 a single time just to get a couple of angels? No, we can do all sorts of things. Let's look at one of our great toolbox cards, the Trading Post. Not only does this let us discard cards into our graveyard at will, such as our vehicles, but we can also sacrifice a creature to bring a artifact back from our graveyard to our hand, or sacrifice an artifact to draw a card. So we've got our Trading Post out, we swing for our Beryllian, we don't want it back in our hand, we can sack it and draw a card. Or if there's any other artifacts in our graveyard that we want back for any reason, we can sack it, get that artifact back. Or maybe the Beryllian's already in our hand. Pay 1, discard it. And this is true of any vehicle, by the way. Whichever card you want in your graveyard, Trading Post will get it there for you. Another card that can do similar is the Auric Lore Mage. One of my 4 additional pilots, because at the end of the day, we want to have multiple vehicles on the battlefield, which means we'll need more pilots. Auric Lore Mage does double duty. Not only can this crew on its own any vehicle of power with a crew cost of 3 or less, but we can tap this and search our library for any card, put it into our graveyard. So whatever vehicle we want to bring back with our commander, this can go and get it for us. Other pilots, by the way, if you want the pilot to end all pilots, it's the Lupine Prototype. 2 mana for a 5/5. It cannot attack or block unless someone has no cards in their hand, which means it's not going to attack or block, not in our format. But this can crew literally crew any vehicle out there for us right now, literally. And with more vehicles to come, this is going to prove excellent. We want to run a lot of these Platecrafter style cards. The ones that, when they enter the battlefield, each of our opponents, well, us included, every player has to sacrifice a thing, be it a creature or a planeswalker, or perhaps even discarding cards. And the reason we want to run a bunch of these, well, it's another way to bring our vehicles back into the graveyard. So let's say second main phase, you cast your Platecrafter. You've got a vehicle that you've already turned into a creature, put it right back into the graveyard. Everyone else loses a card, basically, from their board. Or perhaps you cast this on your first main phase when you have a vehicle already on the battlefield, but not crewed. You cast one of these, crew the vehicle in response to the trigger, and then sacrifice the Platecrafter or the other creatures of its ilk. So definitely look at running a bunch of these to control the board and keep your opponent's creatures at bay. And Professor of Symbology is the last sort of pilot we're going to look at. It can only really pilot smaller vehicles, but it has Learn, which means that we can discard a card from our hand in order to draw a card on ETB. So yeah, it's just some simple card advantage, but also has the advantage of being able to crew some smaller vehicles on its own, or teaming up with other creatures to crew larger vehicles as needed. There's a whole bunch of cards with the Learn mechanic throughout Strixhaven, so be sure to check that spoiler list out and see if you find a few that you like. Moving on to help increase our damage output, we're going to use the Duelist Heritage. Whenever one or more creatures attack, you may have target attacking creature gain double strike until end of turn. It can be one of our vehicles when we attack someone, or if our opponents are attacking each other, we can mess with combat a little bit and provide the double strike to the attacking creature and force the defender to, block or just take more damage. After all, we are looking to win through combat, and Duelist Heritage is a way to help us on everybody's combat step, not just our own. A little bit of defense coming up here, Eerie Interlude. So, obviously, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty brought us a nice little board wipe called Farewell, which can exile all artifacts in play and all graveyards all in one shot. It's really, really hard to defend against such a thing in our colors. Eerie Interlude can do that. So long as we can crew the vehicles that we have on the battlefield, we can use this to slow blink, as I like to call it, and exile all of our creatures until the end of the turn. There are plenty of other spells that do this as a single target spell, but Eerie Interlude is the best way to save our whole board from what is arguably the most powerful board wipe ever printed. And I mean, any other sweeper, even a Shatterstorm, this can dodge a Shatterstorm for us if we need to. So be sure to keep one of these handy. It's a great response and a great way to defend our board. The Gaia Reach Sanitarium, a nice little piece to go into our mana base. We've already seen with the Learn mechanic that we can take advantage of the discarding a card and drawing a card. So let's put that in our mana base, shall we? In this case, everybody gets to draw, then discard a card. But we're going to be discarding our vehicles and then animating them with our commander. So we get a 0 card disadvantage at all with that. Whereas everyone else might draw a slightly better card, or might draw, might get a land out of the way in the mid game. It's not we are providing some advantage to our opponents, but not as much as we are getting from it. And the last card we want to look at highlights the fact that both black and white are really, really good at animating artifacts and creatures. Beacon of Unrest. In the case of Beacon of Unrest, it's one of the rare spells that can target either an artifact or a creature, and it can be from any graveyard. But whatever it targets brings back onto the battlefield permanently, and then the spell itself gets shuffled back in, so we might be able to cast this multiple times a game depending on the pace. Of course, again, white has plenty of other spells to reanimate artifacts and creatures. Black has plenty of other spells to reanimate creatures. But this is a theme that we can play with, especially since we're playing with the discard and draw theme as well. And just like that, 10 cards. 10 cards to help guide you on your deck building journey with Greasefang. Hope you all enjoyed that, and what are your first 10? What are some of your picks for your Greasefang deck? Leave a comment below and let's see what we all come up with. Until then, I've been Capital G, and we will see you next time.